Siam and Siat, Lana, Lily, Hoichuch, Siam, Hoichuch, Hachachanek, Siam, Chi Oxton, Quiam Snas, got up Stomach, and one Oxton and Squallowins. Hoichuch to Swaamchit, noch Nails, Hoichuch to Swaamchit, Randy Baird, to Waichuch Yo, and one Oxton and Squallowins, Chen Quinman told me. Chayachtin, Siam, Stomach. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Zoom. Hope you're enjoying your morning so far, and I hope you have a good day today. Asking for blessings from the Creator to look over each and every one of us on this beautiful day as we move our canoe forward. My name is Chioxton. Translated, as Lily said, Chiach is our laws and protocols of our families. And the duty of looking after these laws have been given to me since 1987. Following our laws and protocols, I'd like to open this Zoom meeting with a song in honor of Randy Bear, knowing he did a good job in his life, knowing that he shared his knowledge with people, and many, many people look up to him today and carry those teachings within them of what he shared, trying to look after the land and look after the people. The song that I want to share is a song that comes from back in the 1800s. Our people were in contact with the newcomers, and they asked to build a house in our village here of Oslahan in North Vancouver, British Columbia. When our ancestors sat at the table with them, they talked about moving their canoe forward in a good way, working in Chokmo, one heart and one mind, Chen Chen Stwait, working together as one. And I believe this is how this gathering is to bring us together in Chokmo, one heart, one mind, and give honor to the ancestors that have shared all their teachings, acknowledging your ancestors as well, for it's our belief that our ancestors follow us and guide us in ways of being. As I said, the song came from 1800s. 1886, to be specific, was one instrumental year. Speaking of fires, there was a fire in Vancouver that started in the village of Snauk, one of our fishing villages. There was a sawmill that had been built there, and it had started a fire that raised across what was known as the town of Vancouver at the time. They were just being incorporated. This fire, which could be viewed from where I'm at now, the village of Oslahan, at that time, most of our Sweka, our men, were working in the sawmills as well as the various forts that were being built along the Fraser River and Howe Sound area, Fort Vancouver, Fort Burrard, Fort Langley. And so our ladies were the only ones. And the reason why I like to share this song these days is because I believe this is the time when our ladies are stepping forward again and bringing life to our people once again. We as men have always been there just to watch over and protect our knowledge keepers, which are the ladies. And so I give honor to them today, give honor to those that deal with fire every day, knowing, and just want to put this out there, Lily, carrying the torch is okay because sometimes we have to fight fire with fire. Going back to the days when our people used to utilize the fire to replenish the forest, to clear areas, they always made sure they looked after it, and sometimes they did have to use fire to send fire back. So this is Scummel Slolum, the paddle song. The words in it ask that the Creator, Hachachanak Chesiam, look after each and every one of us as we travel in our canoes, as we travel on the land, or on our horses in some cases. So, O Siam and Siai, Hochoch Siam. Oh no hot male, Shasta Chesia, and consequence storm, to name a and consequence storm, to name a oh Lord, Shasta Chesia, and consequence storm, to name a and consequence storm, to name oh Lord, Shasta Chesia, and consequence storm, to name and consequence storm, to name Siam and Siai, Hochoch Siam, Hochoch Randy Bear, Hochoch Hachachanak Chesiam, and Wanox, Netsqualowins, Chenquan Mantomi, Hochoch Teswaamchit, Nachneo, Hochoch Teslanite Lily, and Wanox, Netsqualowins. Thank you, Lily, for this time of sharing Indigenous knowledge from the West Coast, or from the Coast Salish, actually. On behalf of the Sko'omish Stalmo of the Squamish human beings, we share prayers with you today. And thank you once again. Thank you.
Wes Jackson for this beautiful introduction. And I think it was the most appropriate song to begin our event today, because imagining those women paddling from across the Burrard Inlet, the body of water that's called Burrard Inlet, I think it's very important to acknowledge today that First Nations are the first responders, and there would be no Canada if people weren't there in their canoes helping the settlers along the way. Thank you. Thank you so much, Jackson. The beautiful thing is that the legacy lives on in the work that Michelle will do and the youth that she inspires will do. So at this point, I would like to pass the talking stick to Michelle Vandevord, Daystar woman, an incredible leader. You read about her bio, so I won't reintroduce you here. But I just wanted to say I'm deeply honored for the time and your generosity and the advice that you offer for youth, Michelle. And thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Lily. And thank you everybody for being with us today. I'd like to start off by thanking Wes for the beautiful acknowledgement for my mentor, my best friend, my brother-in-law, Randy Bear. I'd also like to acknowledge that I'm taking this call today from Treaty 6 territory. It's the homeland of the Cree, the Dene, the Nakota, the Saulteaux, the Ojibwe, and homelands of the Métis. So the presentation and slide that you're looking at right now on your screen, and we talk about Randy Bear and how he lives on. This is still very fresh. Our Randy is the reason I got into firefighting. It was a shoulder tap from Randy that, you know, come out to the fire hall. I think you'd be, you know, this is something you'd like and something you'd be good at. So losing him last month it's made me relook at my whole career. It's made me wonder if, you know, I even want to continue on. So looking at this page and seeing legacy, I think about Randy and the passion that he had for fire prevention, you know, so just knowing that, that's what's going to keep me going on, is his legacy and that passion that he had for going into the classroom and teaching kids how to be safe, how to be prepared for fires. It was something that I will continue on for him, that my office, Sask First Nation Emergency Management, will continue for him, and will always be a legacy for him. I have so many fond memories of being in a classroom, and it was always so important for him to get down to the kids' level, right? And make sure he was crawling around on the ground and the kids were laughing. It was always a presentation that I knew kids were going to go home. They were going to be excited about it. There was going to be more home escape plans on reserve with families, which will save lives in the long run. And he loved doing that work. And so I will continue that on for Randy. My officers have committed to keeping that on for Randy. He will be dearly missed. He was, the picture you're looking at on the screen is actually from our very first search and rescue training. And that was Randy's next huge passion, was search and rescue and helping our First Nation families bring their loved ones home. Many times when we were called in, it would be after the fact, and it was a recovery mission, not so much a rescue. So the work that he did was exhausting mentally and physically, but he loved the work because it was just the type of person Randy was. He was a people person, he loved helping, and he was very well known in Saskatchewan from that work as well, on top of what he did with our First Nation volunteer fire department. So thank you, Wes. That was a beautiful song, and it really touched me. I had to go off screen for a little bit, and you can probably still hear it in my voice being choked up. So it'll be hard to get through the presentation. I was up late last night, and really, it was hard just getting by the pictures, right? And thinking about him, but everything that I do is about fire prevention and protecting our families on reserve. And there's many ways that we can do that. So if we can go to the next slide, Lily. So just as a brief introduction, my name is Michelle Vandevord. I'm the Associate Director for Saskatchewan First Nations Emergency Management here out of Prince Albert. And I'm also the President of the Aboriginal Firefighters Association of Canada. And also my other huge job and passion is being a volunteer firefighter in my home community of Musqueam First Nation, where I've been a firefighter for 21 years. I recently became the first female captain on reserve in my fire department. So that's another feather in my cap and something I'm very proud of. And there's many other titles and roles within my job, you know, just to push First Nation firefighting forward and having more resources right across Canada. So we can go to the next slide, Lily. And that's what it's all about, saving lives. That's what we want to do, starting back from AFAC to the National Indigenous Fire Safety Council project. It's always been about saving lives and having better services and supports for our firefighters on reserve. the picture, the top picture is me and my home community and our, what was new fire truck probably about 5 years ago. And the bottom picture is doing a fire presentation in a classroom with the kids, which makes me smile because they all look so engaged, right? And that's what it's all about, is those presentations and being able to engage our youth and engage the kids and get them passionate about fire safety. And we can go to the next slide, Lily. So fire safety gaps on reserve. I think everybody has probably heard the stats on the news. Everybody knows that we are more at risk on reserve. When you hear the stat that we have fire fatalities 10 times higher than the Canadian average, I hope everybody is alarmed by those numbers, and they should be. And there's many different reasons why we have the high fire rates on reserve. It's our housing, it's fire prevention activities, the funding gaps, and I could go on and on. One thing that I'm very proud of being a part of AFAC and the National Indigenous Fire Safety Council is we're going to close those gaps. I know we are. With the programs that are rolling out already, from the home fire inspections to helping our First Nation volunteer fire departments stand up and be more prepared, those gaps will be closed. The organization is new, but I'm excited about the programs that are starting to roll out. There are programs across Canada already starting to close these gaps. And I'd like everybody, if you have a minute, to check out the website, indigenousfiresafety.ca, and you can find out more about the programs. Next slide, Lily. So we have more gaps that we're talking about on the screen. So just talking about the evacuation. So where I live in Saskatchewan, we border on the Northern Boreal Forest. So my organization has responded to many, unfortunately, many evacuations over the 4 years that we've been an organization. One thing that I would like to share with everybody is one huge gap that we've helped close in Saskatchewan is by training Red Cross volunteers in our First Nation communities in Saskatchewan. We had one of my officers, Lawrence Stewart, in our office, did a Red Cross drive throughout Northern Saskatchewan, recruiting Red Cross volunteers. And after that drive, we had, I believe, over 160 new volunteers within the Red Cross, which is huge for First Nations on reserve when you do evacuate, to have First Nation volunteers being that first face that people will see when they're leaving their homes. It's having people in your community being able to do the preparedness work themselves. It's building capacity on reserve. And I believe that's what everybody strives for, is being able to manage our events ourselves as much as we can. So the other stat that we were talking about, it again, is the housing issues on reserve, and it's huge. It's a problem that's been here for many years. It's not something that's going to go away. But one way that I know we can close the gap, again, is going back to home fire safety assessments, which is a program rolling out, right? So if more communities, and there is an opportunity for First Nation communities to be involved in the home fire safety assessment rollout, again, you can go to the website, click on contact, and find out how your First Nation community can be involved. The importance of that, of a home fire safety assessment, is finding the fire hazards before they happen, which is key and it's crucial. Also, the data that the First Nation community will have after those home assessments is also vital for the community to prepare and to find out what's happening in their community. If you find out after doing all of your home fire safety assessments that 40% of your homes don't have smoke alarms, there's a huge opportunity to reach out for funding and close those gaps. So I'm very excited about that program. At the bottom, you can see that there's been no data that has been collected since 2010. Another huge gap that the National Indigenous Fire Safety Council is going to close. Right now, there is a reporting system online. So if you have a fire in your community, we would love if everybody could go online and track that data, report those fires that are happening in your community, because we need to see where the fires are happening, how they're happening, and then we can create change. And that can be right at the band level and supported through the new project. We can go to the next page, Lily. So firefighting is a risky profession. Everybody knows that when you sign up from the first day you go to the fire hall. The reason that we lost Randy was colorectal cancer. And it is listed as one of the cancers that firefighters can get, right? So Randy was diagnosed in October of last year and passed away February 28th. So his cancer, by the time we found it, was already stage 4. So Randy never did make it to the cancer clinic. There were no treatments. So we didn't have, from the time he was diagnosed to the time he passed, very much time with him. And this is a risk that all firefighters take every time they go out on a call. So one thing that I'm going to speak about my own experiences in my own fire hall is, as a volunteer fire department on reserve, you don't have a lot of the resources that you need to protect yourself from those hazards. In my fire hall, we don't have a washer and dryer to clean our turnout gear after a call, right? We don't have a special place for our turnout gear, so it's not, sitting right inside the fire truck or beside the fire truck with all of those hazards coming, from the exhaust. So we need to change that. We need more funding for on-reserve firefighting. We need to make sure that we're protecting our firefighters and having supports. And this is another huge piece for me, is as a firefighter on reserve, it's always been hard to find those supports when you're trying to reach out for help, whether it be from how to conduct your training, how to protect your firefighters. So having a national organization now is very exciting for me as a firefighter on reserve, right? Having people who know what we're going through at the fire hall. Our mental health issues. I know most First Nation communities have CISM teams on reserve or at the tribal council level, your tribals provincially as well. But as firefighters, we tend to keep that at the fire hall a lot, and people are struggling. You see such traumatic events at fire calls all through your career. And I just hope that more firefighters will reach out for support, because there is lots of help out there. It's just teaching people how to access the support that they need. You can go to the next page, Lily. So the Aboriginal Firefighters Association is very new to me. I've been a part of the association for a couple of years now. And then the rollout of the whole National Indigenous Fire Safety Council project was starting just the year that I came in. So it's been a huge learning curve for me. But the association has been in existence for 30 years. AFAC actually turns 30 this year. And that's a huge accomplishment for the association and all of the work that we are now taking on to create a national organization with programs and supports for our First Nation firefighters. We've always been doing it, but now having support through Indigenous Services Canada at the national level, we know that this program is going to save lives It's going to give supports to firefighters across the country who now have a program for us, by us. And we say that a lot in our meetings. It's been discussed for years, and it's important for firefighters to be a part of an organization that was built for them, because there's unique circumstances on reserves that other municipalities and city fire departments don't see. And one of them is the housing issue, right? You have to be from the reserve and work on the reserve and firefight on the reserve to know what that's like, to know what you're dealing with. So I appreciate that, and I hope everybody will check out the website and see what we're doing. We can go to the next page, Lily. So I spoke about it a little bit, but this is really exciting. The National Indigenous Fire Safety Council project is gathering the data to close the gaps in fire protection on reserve. So every time you would have a fire, you know, you're responding to just a small fire or large fire, there was nowhere to send that data. Fire departments across this country have that data in their fire halls and have never known what to do with it. In other RMs in big cities, that data is always so important because it helps you plan and know where to spend your dollars that you're allocated for that year. So for First Nation fire departments to not have that data, you know, it's been hard to plan. It makes it hard to plan. It makes it difficult to go to INAC to ask for dollars when nobody is helping you gather that data. You could know at the fire hall that you've had 10 motor vehicle accidents in that year. But if you don't know how to put it all together, it's hard to show other people your need for different equipment for certain things that you need in your fire hall. So please share the National Indigenous Reporting System as much as you can. I hope firefighters, everybody will see this and share this because it's so vital for our departments across the country. You can go to the next page, Lily. So Saskatchewan First Nation Emergency Management is the organization I am currently working with. And we have a range of different courses that we provide and supports across the province. You can see a bunch of them on your screen right now. With COVID happening this year, we haven't been able to really go out to our First Nation communities and deliver our programs as everybody has been staying at home. Our communities are in lockdown. We have border security. So what our organization did is we reached out to First Nations Inuit Health Branch, and we're supporting FNIHB by delivering isolation equipment to our First Nation communities in Saskatchewan. So it's different in the supports we usually provide, but we are very fortunate and very blessed and thankful that we've been able to continue to support our First Nation communities in Saskatchewan. And within our organization, we actually have two different streams. So we have on one side, the firefighting and delivering firefighting training to our First Nation communities and supports and responding, doing fire hall assessments. And then on the other side, we have our emergency management side, where we're also delivering programs such as emergency operations centers, responding to wildfire events. So it's a huge job. My officers work extremely hard, and it's all free services for our First Nations in Saskatchewan. And I'm very proud of that because the programs that we provide can be very expensive for our First Nation communities. So having that support and services for First Nation communities free is valuable to our communities. And the officers that I have in my office are such great guys. They turn into families in our First Nation communities. I've seen, some of my officers being honored at powwows, and, it's a brotherhood. And I'm just very proud of the work that they do every day. Next slide, Lily. And is this where I turn it over to my bestest buddy, Sheena? Sheena is from Stanley Mission First Nation in Saskatchewan. And I met Sheena a few years ago when I was looking at the Preparing Our Home program online. And somebody sent me an email and said, you should find a youth, and it's all about emergency preparedness for our youth. And I was so excited. And right away, I reached out to one of our chiefs in the north, and I was like, somebody? And the very first person that came to mind was this amazing leader in Stanley Mission who is doing great work with her youth. Sheena is actually, I don't know how to say this, Sheena, but you work with the youth. I don't know what your title is, youth coordinator.
I'm a youth worker.
A youth leader, and does a lot of programming with the youth in her community. So that's how we met. She's a very shy girl, very quiet. I know this presentation was very hard. Both of us were up late last night, nervous and worrying about it. And I always say to Sheena, you know what? You are so good with the kids. And when you do the presentation, you just think of the kids, and we'll get through it together. So if you struggle at all, Sheena, I'm right here. So everybody, this is Sheena from Stanley Mission.
Hello, everyone. I am Sheena. Anyways, I have a daughter. Her name is Kaya, and she's 6 years old. And she is amazing. Anyways, I run the youth center, bowling alley, and we have been shut down since November. So we're currently doing online virtual activities. And keeping our community busy during this hard time has been exciting for me because I get to run the show. I was so nervous to fly to BC. It was my first time, and meeting new people, I always tend to get nervous, but I'm so glad I took the opportunity to go, because I wouldn't have met Lily, Michelle, and the awesome crew that came from different parts of Canada. I felt as if it was just a dream. Mountains are so beautiful. Being at this event has made me a knowledge keeper, and I brought that knowledge back home to my very own community to share with the youth who I love so much. The workshop didn't happen all in just one day. I took about a month, every other week. On the first day of the workshop, I asked my cousin Colleen Valentine to teach the kids how to prepare fish and moose meat. Also taught them how to prepare the meat to be smoked. The kids are very intrigued in the activity. Colleen enjoyed teaching as she is a Head Start coordinator and was grateful that she was given the opportunity to teach something that she loves. Second part of the workshop, I had Angus McLeod come to the youth center to talk to the youth about how to live off the land. He told the youth that there was no cell phone usage back in the day, so they had no way of communicating with others. Kids had a lot of questions, and we finished off with a meal. We did the hazard mapping and basic first aid. The youth loved doing the activities. We pinned the important buildings in the community. First place to go in case of evacuation was the band hall, where we would register, then wait to be transported. We did the first aid at the youth center. My coworkers and I showed the youth what to do in case they got a burn or a cut. They were very cooperative. Also received backpacks filled with emergency preparedness. We did a talent showcase. We got inspired from people from Pelican Narrows. They had their own talent showcase, and me and my sister Felicia, we did our own here in Stanley Mission, and it was a hit. Like, people from all over Saskatchewan were joining our page, and these are our top 3 winners. The first one is Ashla Michelle, and I don't know the second person who that is, but the third one is Franklin Cook from South End. And this is one of my favorites. Since this pandemic started, they made us do online virtual activities because they didn't want us just collecting money. So this is one of my contests I had put on for Valentine's Day. And unfortunately, these cakes didn't win, but they look so good. And yeah, that's part of my job right now, is putting on contests for the youth. And there's me and the beautiful Michelle.
So like I was saying before, my office does fire safety presentations, education sessions in schools across Saskatchewan on reserve. Usually those presentations would be delivered from kindergarten up to about grade 6. So when I got to the community, Sheena was like, "Oh, we're going to the high school." And I thought, "What?" He's like, "No, we're going to the high school." And I was like, "Oh my goodness." I was nervous. I'd never done a presentation. And just as a background, finding information about doing a fire presentation for older students is very hard. There's not very much out there. Usually it goes back to the fire setting program. So it's more geared towards, once kids are already starting fires, then let's address the problem, right? For me, it was about just teaching the older kids how to be more fire safe. So I started out my presentation. You can see it on your screen. This is the front page of my local newspaper, and it's from a devastating fire that we had in our community. We lost 2 children. Our community was ripped apart, devastated. Our fire department was devastated. We couldn't respond to calls for close to a year after this fire call. We are actually very fortunate that we have an MOU with our neighbors, Birchills, who, stood up for us while we were grieving. And that's how I started the presentation. I didn't really know what else to do, but I happened to have that in my, I take it everywhere I go. And that's how I started out. I went around to the kids and I showed them this headline. And I started out the presentation about how all fires are preventable. So if you look at the picture now, you can see how engaged the youth were. And I was so surprised. I've done lots of presentations for youth over the years, even high school kids, but in a different context. It was so quiet in that gym when I was doing this presentation, you could have heard a pin drop, because my presentation was coming from my heart and something that I personally went through as a firefighter. And I got choked up. It was hard to talk about. It was difficult reliving that day that it happened. So the story that I told the children was how we actually attended a fire call at this house a few days before the fire. And what happened was there was a couple of children who were playing with fire in the basement, sticking pieces of fire into the pilot light of the water heater. And they'd actually caught some of the clothes on fire in the laundry room. So I was telling the kids, how as a firefighter, we responded, we were lucky, we got the fire out. I remember sitting down and talking to the kids about, you know, the dangers of fires, and we talked to the parents, and, you know, like you have, you know, you should really try and get the laundry away from the water heater. It's dangerous. And, you know, you do all the things that you would normally do at a call, right? And there again, trying to prevent a future fire. It was a few days later, the radio is going off and we're getting a fire call. I open up my front door because I live right in the village where all of our houses are. I open up the front door and I could see huge black plumes of smoke coming from just down the block. And I knew exactly where I was going. And it was hard. You know, we pulled up to the scene, and by some miracle, one of the firefighters looked in the basement window and happened to see the children sleeping on a bed in the basement. We were able to get the 2 children out of the house, but they were both overcome by smoke. And, you know, when I think about Randy and I think about this call, Randy did CPR on one of the children, and I did CPR on the other child. And just goes back to Randy's dedication. He jumped in the ambulance with the kids and helped the EMS team all the way to the hospital with the children without even thinking, right? Just, do you need help? And he was gone, like in a blink of an eye, you know, like the ambulance was there, they grabbed the children, Randy jumped in, and they were gone. And it was devastating. And I believe that's part of where his passion came from for fire prevention. You know, it's those huge losses that we have in our First Nation communities. Knowing that all fires on reserve, off reserve, wherever you are in Canada, are preventable. Taking the time to check your smoke alarms, to do a home escape plan with your children so they know what to do in the middle of the night when your house is filled with smoke, is so important. And it's sad that we only save that for 1 week out of the year. And it's not just a firefighter's job to do that work. And I strongly believe in this. It takes everybody in the community to reduce our fire risks on reserve. It's starting with our leadership and promoting it, helping with the housing issues, making sure there's smoke alarms in our houses. It's also the job of our teachers and our communities to be doing great programs that were built for them, like the Learn Not to Burn program, their job. To our mothers and our fathers doing home escape plans, everybody has a job and a responsibility with fire prevention. And nowadays, with the technology that we have, the resources that are online, everybody can be a part of the solution. And I'm hoping, if anything, if you take anything away from this presentation, please make sure and do a home escape plan with your families and regularly check your smoke alarms, because those 2 things combined will save lives.
Sheena, I just want to thank you for showing up every day for the 60, 90 youth that you serve, and for the creativity and adaptability that you brought to this and reinvented the program in this online space. And I think that's a lot to celebrate, and to create those spaces for joy and happiness and laughter. Thank you so much for being so brave and joining today. I know public speaking is not easy for you. You did an amazing job. Thank you, Sheena. And of course, Michelle, thank you for guiding us and teaching us and showing us that we each have a role to play. I will turn off the screen sharing now, and we'll go to the sharing circle. So if anybody has any questions, comments, feelings, it's all welcome here. So we'll just have a sharing session now. Arnold, please go ahead. Thank you.
So thank you, Michelle, and thank you, for the good words, and thank you for promoting fire safety. Um, my name's Arnold Lazar. It's been my privilege and honor to serve the Kahnawake Fire Brigade for 42 years, and I'm involved with AFAC for 29 years. So I've been around a little bit, but um, I think that we are on the wave of something very good. We've been working many years to get to this point, and finally, Indigenous Services has recognized that there is a need, um, and all of the things that Michelle talked about come from a whole bunch of team. Like I'm being involved so long. I'm fortunate that we have firefighters from Chutina and um, BBC and the Maritimes, and once again, it's been my honor to work with all these good people. Lily, um, I guess it's a passion more than a science these days, but everything that Michelle has said are the cornerstones. We know that unless we take assertive action, things aren't going to change, and it's been an honor. I'm after 42 years. I'm at I'm at the twilight of my career, but I have a lot of faith in Michelle and the young people um, who are taking over with AFAC and with the agencies. And I'd like to point out that Michelle and the other board members are all volunteer. I mean, that's a big challenge and it's a big responsibility, and they do it in their spare time. So we have a good team, and I acknowledge all of the people who are attending today, because without people like you, all the work that would be done wouldn't go anywhere. I'm actually in our EOC for Kahnawake. We're a half community, but we call it the task force. And we're fortunate that we only have, well, we've had no deaths, no hospitalizations, and nobody in the ICU from COVID. So we get reeled back in, but I'm hoping other people will share. Please don't be shy. We always say it's amazing what you can accomplish when you don't care who gets the credit. And the other thing is, nobody is as smart as everybody in the room. So have a good afternoon. And Michelle, thank you very much. I know it was a very difficult time, and of course our thoughts and prayers are with you, and I know that the good work will continue. Thank you.
I just want to thank Michelle and Sheena. Your presentations were awesome. I think sometimes we become very complacent. We don't move forward until there's a tragedy, and we've had some here, and so, and it's we as a community we're put on off guard, I guess, and we've lost people. So, and COVID's been one of them too. That's, you know, we're not being proactive in our community to really make sure that our people are safe. So, but Sheena, you do an awesome job with the youth, and Michelle with the firefighting. That's awesome. So thank you all. And Lily for always bringing us together, and Wes for the beautiful prayers. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sherry License. I'm from the Adams Lake Indian Band in BC. I've been the deputy fire chief here for 9 years, but in total, I've got about 18 years experience with the fire department. I think that one of our biggest issues here, I find, are the funding to keep the fire department running. Chief and council seems to have their hand in everything, and we don't get what we need to be able to run. And you know, places like security or chief and council, they have no issues with taking whatever they need, but like something that keeps our community safe is important to them, because, you know, we're really lucky. It's been many, many years since we've had any fatalities in fires. But I guess the other thing I find is an issue here is getting people motivated to help your community. Like, we've got 14 fire department members right now, but we live very, very close to Chase, and about half of our firefighters are non-natives, and we serve two communities. We serve Adams Lake and we serve Nisconlith, but we can't get band members to actually participate in this. And it's really, really, really frustrating and exhausting to try and do it. So I'm wondering if anybody's got some ideas on recruitment or inspiring the same passion in people that we have.
I understand your frustrations. My fire department actually is going through a whole overhaul. I think a big loss that we're seeing across Canada and our volunteer fire departments is a lot of our leaders are stepping down and retiring, right? So a lot of those guys who had been part of the department for 20, 30 years. So it's hard for people to see that change as well, right? Going from a very well-known fire chief for many years to somebody else, like, you know, when the torch is handed over. One thing I will say is look to your youth. You know, they're always overlooked for everything in our First Nation communities, right down to preparedness to, and that's why I love Lily and her program, right? It's like just getting them involved. What we're going to be starting in our fire hall is a junior firefighter program. So starting the kids at like 17, 18, getting them involved, and, you know, by the time they're 18, they're fully trained, prepared to go out to any call you may have in your community. So I think if you reached out to more of the younger generation, you might find a little bit more success there. That's a route I'm going to try. I'm already hearing, you know, buzz in the community about all these kids who are so excited and they want to come to the hall. So I hope it works for us, and I hope it helps you as well.
All right, I'm from Saskatchewan. I'm the deputy fire chief for the Morin Lake Fire Department, and happy to be a part of this presentation. And I just have a suggestion for Michelle. Given that that Randy was so important to our fire department in Saskatchewan, I'm wondering if we can change the Most Sportsmanlike Team Award to name it after Randy.
That's a great idea, Leonard, and thank you for bringing that forward. I love that idea. And just so everybody knows, Leonard on the call, they were actually the successful winners for the national firefighting competition last year, right across Canada. So you're looking at a leader in Saskatchewan. Thanks for joining the call. Thanks, Leonard.
Well, first of all, I wanted to thank you for inviting me. This is really exciting. Where to begin? I can't even think about the exact moment we met virtually, I suppose, via email, but I had the privilege of doing some work for Lily. I'd say I've spent the past 6 years of my life studying in grad school First Nations fire protection and diversity and inclusion within the fire services as a whole. So I finally was able to obtain my doctorate in this subject matter and see how I could apply what I found in the research in real life situations with real fire departments, whether they be volunteer or composite. And the results would vary from region to region, but basically the tenets remain the same, where we really have to focus on our recruitment processes, how we hire, who we hire, how do we retain firefighters, and develop succession planning. So this is the work that I've been doing. And what stemmed from this work is that I've been a firefighter for the past 20 years, and major gaps. Even though I work for a large urban fire department, we still have issues that mirror the smaller fire departments. So there's a lot of work still to be done. Even in the simplest of terms, being a woman, trying to find fire gear that fits our bodies. We're finally getting up to speed where during the procurement process, it is stated that items must be fit for women's bodies. Otherwise, there's no point in having these large companies bid for the contract if the gear is not going to fit us. We donate a lot of our older equipment, but we're also finding that even this equipment may not be suitable for other departments because generally it's made for larger hands or larger feet. So I'm trying to address more equity issues within the work and in the hiring process. So I think in a roundabout way, what I'm saying is if anyone needs any resources or needs me to write any advocacy letters, this is my specialty. Trying to understand the legislation as it changes. I'm here. I'm just an email or a phone call away. And if there's anything I can offer for your department or point you in the right direction for other resources and training, I can be of help to that. And also establishing frameworks for training camps or youth programming. I have a lot of contacts in that area.
I'm from the Tsikane Nation, McLeod Lake, BC. I'm part of the Tsikane Volunteer Fire Department. I just want to say I'm very grateful to be able to be part of these sessions and to hear the wisdom from across the lands. I think these types of activities are so great for our people reaching out and being able to get support. So yeah, I'm just grateful to be here and to be a part of this. Thank you. Masi.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mary Crocker, and I work with the Canadian Red Cross, also on the Congwin territory, otherwise known as Victoria, BC. And I just wanted to say I really, really appreciated from the heart all that was shared. I learned so much, and working a lot in risk reduction myself with Indigenous communities, there's just never an end in terms of what you can learn. And so I just really humbly offer my thanks, and thanks, Lily, for having me. Thank you.
Thank you for everything today, Lily. I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody on the call, for joining us and listening to us. Yeah, female firefighting is not easy. So big shout out to all the ladies on the call, in the field, doing the work that you do. It's a struggle, but together we're stronger. I appreciate you all. Thank you, everyone.